Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese Pares, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese Pares and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'd like to acknowledge before I begin the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. So today we're talking about the main drivers of change in an organisation. And if you link this in with also the conversation we've had before on the podcast in relation to change intelligence and connected thinking, then what you're doing is kind of having those spidey senses about the change that might come through, which might impact your team, your department, in regards to the indicators and these drivers of change. So if you've got your spidey senses, and as people are talking and as CEOs are talking at your forums and debriefs that can happen every quarter, performance results, those type of things, you can actually join the dots around whether there's going to be more change coming through. And to be honest with you, around this constant climate, yes, it's heightened because of the political landscape globally that's going on and the tussle happening. It's very much in the media every single day. The economic pressures that we're all feeling globally. Yet this is just status quo in some ways. It's almost like normalizing the abnormal. When big events happen in the world, as happened even during COVID, a lot of the ability to cope, I guess, with that is to achieve a new normal. What's the new normal? Well, the new normal is instability. It really is starting to consider this broader landscape as being unstable. That's how it's going to be for quite a while. It could be that way for longer than we think. And really, if I reflect on COVID in 2020, we're in 2025 now, we're recording this episode, and the last 5 years have just been constant instability. And in my last episode, I talked about change resilience, and I highlighted that anyone who's continuing to operate in this world is resilient. They've already proven their resilience to be able to go with the flow in this uncertainty. And we sway between overwhelm, then feeling a bit back in control, and then something else will knock us a bit off center. And we're starting to understand that the more we can focus on our own domain of control, the better. The more you can bring the focus of what you're doing day to day in your work to your direct domain, that is how you can really deal with the constant change, knowing that it's going to happen. And there's always indicators of change that's going to happen. But let's talk about the drivers, because this will help you start to understand what your spidey senses should look out for. The first one is the economic and political environment, and sometimes you can't separate them. The policies internationally, and we've seen this with the recent Trump tariff discussion, that volatility, the political climate, the relationships internationally, everyone started to have an understanding of where their goods and services come from as a result of the Trump tariff discussion, because people started to understand what was going to go up in price locally within each country, and then what was going to become potentially a bit cheaper, dependent upon trade agreements. And so, these type of conversations are really important, that people start to become aware of the political environment and how that influences their own economic well-being. And so from an organisation perspective and from a business perspective, this is one of the most challenging environments to be in. And we've seen it in the job market, even within Australia, things being a bit tighter. Definitely the job hunt's a little bit harder for people, and that's okay. It's just, this is the cycle. It's a cycle that you will go through and everyone will go through. The beauty of change is that it will change over time. What in organisations we're facing, though, is a need to do more with less. And that means working smarter. It means really exploring the digital landscape, AI, how efficiencies can be brought in as part of that. And out of that, new skills emerge. And the skills that emerge is the ability to navigate AI, you don't have to be a coder, but just how to be able to ask the right questions when it comes to AI, give the right direction to get the right outputs. So you only get a quality output with the quality input questions that you ask. So when it comes to your spidey senses, and one of the biggest drivers of change, the economic/political environment, if there was change there, then you would know that there's going to be change within your organisation. Even in Australia, where we had the same political party elected in by a landslide, it gave everyone a bit of a sense of, okay, a bit of stability, but there still may be change as a result of that, depending upon the policy platform that party had. So therefore, being aware of what that looks like is good for you to know, so that you can consider what's the effect on your organisation and what's the messaging coming through in relation to that. The second big driver of change is the digital/technology landscape. And if you're seeing your organisation and you're not aware of what's happening in the tech space in your organisation, then I suggest you start to get across it and start to ask the question about what is happening from a technology perspective. Whenever technology is introduced into an organisation, that it is being done with the intent of efficiency, improvement, and that will inevitably impact roles. It just always does. It can impact it positively. So it may mean that low-level tasks are removed from roles, and then therefore the expectation on the existing team members is that they're no longer doing the mundane tasks that they've been doing before, but they can focus more on value add. And that is a real imperative, it is a real driver of why technology gets invested in. Technology also is invested in to avoid threat, so to make sure that threats are dealt with when it comes to cybersecurity. More and more, of course, in this international landscape, that is definitely being a priority as well, because the cyber aspect and cybersecurity is something that can impact your reputation greatly. And we've seen a bit of that in the last couple of years, where there might be data breaches, people's personal information released or held hostage in a cyber way by organisations, and they've had to go to their customers and inform them of cyber breaches. And so cybersecurity is always going to have to be invested in, and it's a brand-related investment. And so technology and the digital landscape get across what is happening in your organisation, because once again, if you're thinking about your spidey senses, if there's a technology investment happening in relation to functions that your team is doing, you want to be aware of that. You want to ensure that any investment is going to get the maximum benefit for your team, and then think about how your team might need to change not just the way they're working, but their fundamental structure as a result of that tech investment. And there's many, many organisations which are now investing in tech because they understand the AI landscape. They cannot achieve the AI benefits, so they can't achieve an AI efficiency without having invested in the base tech, and that functionality will always be roadblocked or blocked if you haven't got the base fundamentals in place in organisations. And if you're still working with paper and scanning, etc., like there's a huge amount of, I guess, legacy issues that if you haven't lent into them or invested in them yet, then you absolutely need to in the next 5 to 10 years, or you'll just simply be left behind and be non-competitive, especially in times of economic pressures. And so there is obviously still that link of when economies get tough, then investment in tech increases. The investment in tech increases, going to have impact on your team. Economic pressures, probably not going to be allowed to fill roles that you could have easily filled in the past. And so therefore you need the tech to improve so that you can withstand, I guess, this cycle of tightening the belt and achieve the efficiencies that you need to. So it's this loop, essentially. They're two big drivers. The third driver is leadership. Big indicator. Even if it's leadership at CEO level or leadership change within your own team, when a new leader comes in, there's new ways of working that follow that. The needs to brief in someone, let them know what your team's function is. There could be changes to structure within your team. It's an inevitable flow on that can happen. There's not many times, if at all, and you get a bit of a grace period when you have a new leader in, but eventually there will be change, and it should be expected. So when leadership changes, there is often a grace period, but inevitably there will be changes made, whether it be this perception of a CEO bringing their own people across and people that they've worked with before. And that's normal. Like, it's normally something that most people within the organization will judge a leader if they're bringing their people in. The reality is, of course, they're going to have a blend of people they can trust to make change, as well as then recognize those on the team who can flex to change and jump on board their vision, and then have the perfect blend to continue to move forward. It's no different to sporting teams. It's no different to any other landscape within organizations, though it can get heavily judged about people bringing their own people in. I think everyone reads the tea leaves on that at executive level anyway. It's a typical cycle that happens, so don't be surprised. But if you see a new CEO, or if you're having a new CEO come in, inevitably there will be changes that happen in their own direct reports, then potentially in structure across the organisation. From their viewpoint, they will structure it where they're comfortable for efficiency. And then as a result of that, the ways of working. So you really need to be prepared, and prepared with your team's areas of focus, how they're performing, so that you can talk that through with the leader. And then, of course, you're making your own choices about whether you're wanting to be on board that journey or if you're going to look elsewhere. But that's definitely, if a new leader comes in play, regardless where it is in the organisation or what level, your spidey senses should be aware that there'll be a cycle of change as a result of this, and that is 100% normal. It is the flow of change that can happen. So change in leadership, then obviously changes within your team. This is a common, once again, it's a common change that happens. Someone leaves, someone new joins, and it changes the team dynamic. So we've gone very much macro into then the local change that you might experience with a new team member. Not necessarily a leader, but a new team member. And I've always been conscious when being in a leadership role that bringing someone into the team can be disruptive if that person doesn't gel, or it can really ramp up the team in a great diversity way. So bringing someone else in who has a fresh view, who, when I look around my team, does it show the right level of diversity? What message do I send, and what type of team am I creating through my hiring process? And am I hiring for skills, or am I hiring for team fit? And I'd like to think I hire for both, and really don't compromise on that. The one thing I absolutely will say through all of my years of experience of hiring some people where my judgment probably wasn't the best, and I'd say that during those times too, my own fatigue and my own exhaustion was making the decision of, okay, just like, look, let's just get this person in. That's fine. My gut might have said, no, I don't think they're the right fit, but through fatigue and through, I guess, a bit of coercion that I didn't stand solid in my own energy on, that I have hired someone and then they haven't worked out, and it's been such a hassle. So two things. One is be aware of your own energy when you're interviewing and ensure that you're not interviewing out of fatigue and exhaustion and while you're burnt out. Make sure that you have enough of a process where other people might put eyes on that person first and get a sense, and then you can do 2, maybe even 3 rounds to be assured. And the second thing is never compromise. Trust your gut. If the person's not a definite yes and green light, then don't hire them. It's not going to be worth it. Continue to go back out to the market until you get that right person. So they're the key elements, because team change can be destructive or constructive, and you want to ensure that it's very constructive for your team and you can keep everyone moving forward, keep everyone enthused. And if you're needing to rebuild, obviously you want to have a very clear vision on the function of the team, the people you want in that team. That's a normal cycle as well. So if you had a new leader and the leader has a vision for the team that you're buying into, that you really want to follow, and then you've got a vision for your team as a result of that, and then be very clear on that, hire for the right capabilities and functionality for that, and then you will be set up for success with a clear roadmap is important. The other thing to mention, which sorry I didn't mention around leadership, but when leadership changes, and especially CEO, know that that's going to trigger a new strategy. Eventually, 6 months, whatever that time frame might be, but eventually there will be a new strategy, a new 5-year vision that will continue on. And that as a result of that might change the landscape for yourself. So 4 key drivers I talked about there. You've got the economic, political environment, can be volatile. It's more of knowing that the waves of change will always come through. And so this is about really building those muscles to see what is happening politically, economically, understand that can force change through, and quite abruptly, especially on the economic front. If you understand how that works, and especially if you're looking at your quarterly results in your organisation, you really are given a lot of clues about performance. And you're given a lot of clues about the levers that are going to matter in your organisation and about the risk. And that narrative, I don't think, is ever hidden in organisations. It's just the spidey senses aren't up for individuals, and then they feel like they're surprised and shocked at the changes coming through, but the signs were always there. The digital landscape, absolutely. AI, technology, and it does link into the economic landscape at the moment. So investment in tech is happening and is a must-have, and must-have fast. Like, it must be invested in and delivered on time and fast because of the economic pressures. And so that means you can get a sense of the energy around digital and tech change and the urgency with it, which means it must be implemented and must be implemented well and can have implications for people, their functions, their roles. Then leadership change. So if there's leadership change at any level in your organisation, you know that's going to have flow-on effect change. And so it's not about heightening your anxiety around that. It's actually about understanding and accepting, well, that's out of my control. It is going to happen. And so what I'm going to do is focus on being prepared to be able to tell the story about what my team does. If we need to transition to a new way of working, talk about with the leader and the new leader what their vision is, what they're thinking, and continue that conversation so that you can manage and connect the dots for your team. And then obviously team change. So at team level, if you've had people leave, you have people come, like that can really change your team dynamic. And I don't want to underplay that, because it really, really can have a team that was quite functional become dysfunctional. It can be a really big boost for your team, or it can really derail your performance. So important that team changes are acknowledged. And also too, in relation to that, the there is a 3-month time frame that it takes for someone joining any organisation to understand that organisation. And you need to onboard them appropriately and offboard people appropriately too. I see that if people leave the organisation, that there's often not a requirement for them to write out handover notes or to ensure that their records are up to date and where are their files, so that you can continue to deliver as a team the services that you do to your organisation. And that's obviously on the people leader, but really important that that is addressed in an ongoing conversation, especially when you then link it to technology change. So if you don't have a framework around how you're managing the knowledge in your team, you absolutely need to get onto that as soon as possible. So 4 areas, key drivers of change. It can affect your strategy, it can affect your structure, it can affect the people in the organisation. If handled poorly, it will affect the productivity for longer than you would like. So important that you're focused on it, you're aware of it, you're joining the dots on it, and that you're preparing with your team for that change as much as possible, or even for you at a role level for yourself. Make sure that will help you be able to work with the change, flow with the change, and hopefully get the most out of the change for yourself and for your team members. I hope this episode has helped, and I hope it's given you some insights, some understanding around the cycles of change that can happen across the world. I know that it's unstable. Just know that this is the ocean that we are navigating, which is choppy waters. It's just how it is. And when you accept that, it can become a lot easier. Think about how you're being able to be kept up to date with information, but not overwhelmed from the media, the hype, and the negativity that can sit when people are uncomfortable about change. And just know that the tension that can sit in different countries, organizations, teams can sometimes have a really, and hopefully most of the time, have a really positive impact going forward when that tension needs to be resolved. It can actually have evolution of conversation. It can actually force policy reviews. It can actually force people doubling down on their commitment to some of these things, such as diversity and inclusion and these critical elements to organisations that need to exist. I hope you have a wonderful day, and come to myvirtualchangemanager.com, check out the resources we have. We have some courses that are happening, and the carts are going to open soon for those courses. So please jump on and have a look at what courses are coming to see whether they're of interest for you. If you're interested in the world of change, if you need to introduce change in areas where you don't have authority but you need to influence for change, then there's courses there for you, and I hope you will join me in those. Have a great day, and remember that change matters because your people matter.